I thought I was a crazy man. I thought the New York Times just 4 years ago had an article saying I was having hallucinations in Virginia and imagining people following me. Yeah, helicopters, motorcades, machine guns, Marines in plain clothes, people trying to set us up, police arresting people, world leaders on site, no media coverage except that I'm insane. No, I'm not insane. You thought the people were insanely stupid and that you could con them, and now you've been caught with your pants down, Washington Post.
We're on the mark.
Well, Mr. Wordies died when the establishment came and took his little farm home of just 2.5 acres or so. He was legally raising chickens, and he'd beaten them in court over and over again since 2008. And I was reading they couldn't get the local sheriff involved, so somehow the feds were involved, and there was an explosion, and he's dead. And yesterday, Darren McBreen and our other great reporter and researcher, Marcos Morales, arrived there. They arrived there the evening before, and they went to the city hall that looks like it's a Capitol building or something. It's so large. And we're told by the police, yelled at, and told, you cannot, and we have footage of this, you cannot go in the city council building in broad daylight. I think it was like noontime or so, because they were on the show right after it happened, and we have that high-def footage they shot there on the ground. They're getting back tonight. We'll have it for you on the radio/TV and the nightly news on Monday. And the police first got in their face, said, turn your cameras off, you're bad, you're not real media. And my guys are like, First Amendment, we're just going inside, very polite. They said, you're not allowed to go in the building. Well, now there's been a new twist. And while Darren was getting ready for this live feed from an iPhone via Skype, there in Roswell, Georgia, the site of Agenda 21 death and destruction, as we document and chronicle Agenda 21 green zoning, because they were taking his land to make it a green zone. And, of course, other land that they'd been taking. This was just the tail-end piece they needed. But now it's not going to be a park, they've announced. They're deciding to just sell it to some friends, of course. That's how it works. Usually they don't even build the park. They're like, we're taking your neighbor's land for a park. The neighbor's like, oh, I want that. Then later, well, where's my park? You don't get that, stupid. We're going to build a high-rise on it now. But the point is, the police said you can't go in the city council headquarters public building. So I told him, I said, I want you to go back down there tomorrow, and if you choose to violate their unlawful order and you choose to get arrested, I will sue them. I will pay to sue them. But I said, don't resist, obviously, and I said, and don't go in if you don't want to get arrested. Well, they backed off. Now, as we were waiting to go live here during the last 3-minute break, Darren McBreen was standing in front of the city hall, and 2 police cars pull up behind him. So they're in the shot right now, keeping an eye on the dangerous reporter. But there's been a new twist, and Darren McBreen will tell us about that. Darren, thank you for joining us, sir.
Well, Alex, what a difference a day makes. Yesterday, like I said, we were harassed. We actually called the community relations spokesperson today. Her name is Julie Breckbell. And, we told her that we would be returning to City Hall today and asked her if, we should expect harassment by the police. Basically, today, it's a different story. They rolled out the welcome wagon. She invited us into the building. She even was gracious enough to participate in an interview. But nobody is talking about the case of Andrew Wordies. Not a single person. In fact, we were even told that, the mayor, Jerry Wood, that he actually made a press conference. I believe it was at Wordies' his funeral. And that's the only public statement, and he even informed the public at that time that this would be the last time, and that he's not going to talk to the public about this topic again.
Oh, really? Not going to talk about the topic again? That's what Congressman Weiner said early on.
Yeah, so nobody's answering questions. It's very odd, you know, when you rush up the steps with a microphone and a camera, it's just strange. You know, yesterday to be surrounded by police, you know, it felt like one of those fictitious suburban towns in the Twilight Zone. I couldn't believe it. But like I said, today it's a different story. It might have to do with the fact that we were told that there's nobody in the city council that's even here today. The mayor's not here. Nobody's here. So maybe it's because there's nobody.
Yeah, no, that's the twist. They were all there. Marcos had gone in before you to make sure it was the right building. They're in the sprawling government complex, feeding on the public. Yeah. And then she threw him out and said, no, just leave. You try to come in, they block you. And then now today you were saying it was a ghost town in there. So, oh, go ahead, come on in now, because you can't talk to anybody, because they're all off playing golf or something.
Yeah, and you know, and I think they're fully aware by now that we are, you know, very knowledgeable of our rights, you know, so they know that we're not going to be budged, you know, and I think that's important for everybody to know. If you know your rights, you're protected, but if you don't, you know, they will jump all over you. I mean, they will take advantage of that fact. So it's really ruled by consent.
It is. Now you've talked to more people trying to investigate Mr. Wirtas's death. And again, we have a report last night. You followed the nightly news at Channel 21, Green Kiss of Death. But what are we learning now about the way he died? Is there any further investigation? I know there's conflicting news reports because nobody's talking now that some of the police refuse to take part in the raid against the evil chicken farmer.
You know, I think the strangest thing is that we actually have more questions now than we did when we first got here. You know, it's just that nobody is talking. You know, there has been some police that have told us that they refused, that they didn't want to participate, but they didn't want to talk on camera. We're trying to get Sheriff Jackson. We're trying to get his, you know, what he thinks about all this. We're told that he might talk to us. I talked to his secretary. No phone calls back.
Now, I know you've tried to talk to some of the journalists and others. What are locals saying? Do we know anything? It's just the house blows up when there's a raid, and they say, we think he committed suicide, and then we get there and they're acting all suspicious. Yeah,
I think the locals, from what I've talked to the locals, they feel that it was a suicide, but they're just, I think they're still in shock. You know, the guy was well loved in the community. You know, the school children loved him. He was friends with the mayor. You know, he borrowed the mayor's tractor to grade his own property because the city, you know, refused to maintain the sewage and the drain.
Why won't the mayor talk to you then? Because I know reportedly he's not the kingpin in all this and was friends with him. So it's the code enforcement people. You know, over and over again, it's like the mayor, the police chief, they just do whatever these bureaucrats tell them.
Look, the mayor issued an official press conference, and like I said, I believe it was at Andrew Wirtas's funeral, and he informed the public that this is it. This is the last time we're talking about this. So any questions that the media has on this case, they are just simply referring everyone to the mayor's official press conference, which I haven't seen or read, but I can assure you as soon as we get to a computer, we'll check that out. But they don't want to talk to anybody. And it's not just Infowars.com. It's all the rest of the media as well. But obviously, we're the only ones that are pressing the issue. They just do their jobs by remaining silent.
Darren, let's expand on this because I know as soon as we disconnect from you, you're going to remember a bunch of stuff you wanted to cover. But bottom line, this is death by bureaucrat. I mean, are they saying now how he blew himself up or why they think he blew himself up or who was involved? Because I'm told feds were involved, that the police department was involved, that the sheriff wouldn't be involved. That's in one news article. Other articles say the police wouldn't be involved and it was constables. Others say it was federal environmental police. Who raided the house?
We were told that it was county marshals. That's it. They were the only ones. There was no police department. So it was county marshals. They did, and this is not official, but I've also heard reports that they did find a detonation device, what appeared to be a detonation device inside the house. We videotaped and took pictures of an empty gasoline can that was actually charred and burned right outside the home. Found some rubber gloves, and there was a police line, you know, around the house. Do not enter, but we were able to get our cameras and kind of look inside. I think I told you yesterday, inside the property was it looked much more devastating on the inside than it did the outside. You could see damage, you could see the burn from the outside, but inside is completely gutted and burnt to a crisp.
Well, I've got news camera footage from squad cars across the country where they'll get into somebody's RV and go, look, we found pipe bomb parts, and they'll hold up jumper cables. That happened in a case of a fellow I actually personally know, and it had the squad car footage and the helicopter footage, but later in the trial, the squad car footage, and he gets out, Farrell Montgomery's his name. There's actually a clip of it in Road to Tyranny. Mm-hmm. And is it Road to Tyranny or is it Masters of Terror? I forget. The point is, he gets out of his little RV, they taser him, they let the police dog bite him for no reason, and then they go on the news and say, we're arresting him for a pipe bomb, and they hold up jumper cables. And then later they had to drop it, and it's just like, you know, who knows? See, that's the thing. When government lies this much, I don't know if I believe anything they say, Darren. It's like NASA says they've 99% proven Martian bacteria in the samples from the Viking spacecraft that landed there in 76. I don't know if that's true. I mean, you can't believe anything they say.
Well, and the strangest thing, too, we have a community spokesperson who isn't speaking. I mean, you know, she talked to us. She invited us in today. Yesterday, she sent the police after us. But today, you know, we were invited in. But still, none of our questions were answered.
Did you ask her why she sent the police after you yesterday?
Yeah, she said she did not. She did not. So, and she also said today that it was wrong for them to tell us to leave. You know, so today she's on our side. Yesterday, it was a twilight zone.
Well, again, I want to ask police something and these bureaucrats. Do you really want your kids growing up in a country like this where journalists show up in suits and ties and are walking up and police jump out and yell at them and say you can't go in the city hall? I mean, that is an unlawful thing they did. And this is happening everywhere. And I gave the analogy yesterday, Darren. I want your take on this. It'd be like if you owned a bass boat with your neighbor, and you're out on the bass boat, and, you know, the neighbor happens to be a cop, and they shoot a hole in the bottom of the boat and say, aha, I'm sinking your boat. And you're like, but it's your boat, too. You're in it, too. I mean, when you butcher the Bill of Rights and Constitution, that you swear an oath to protect and defend, by the way, there's a reason that's what your oaths do, you're destroying your own future. And there's all these excuses of, oh, that's the way it is, and of course, they demoralize the police because it is a thankless, horrible job. I mean, you couldn't pay me $500,000 to do it. And I know some cops now are paid over $100,000 in many areas, but still, I mean, after a while, it sounds like, but so, I mean, look, this country didn't used to have police. You had sheriffs and others for serious crimes or to get warrants after a crime was committed to bring somebody to justice. Now you got everybody calling the police on each other if their dog poops in their yard. You know, that's not what police are for, Darren.
Or if you have too many chickens. But we don't know if that's true. You know, they claimed that one of Andrew's neighbors did not like his number of chickens. And, you know, it's just silly. I mean, Andrew, we've seen his property. He kept it up to code. You know, the place looked great. And from what we understand, he was actually the official on raising chickens. He would teach other people how to do it. But according to the, you know, City Hall here, someone complained, and then he had, oh, God forbid, he had too many chickens on his property.
Well, he's dead now, so they must feel good about themselves.
And he dared to borrow a tractor from the mayor and grade his own property to protect his property from flooding.
You know, my grandfather had a heart attack that ended up basically killing him a few years later. Might as well have been dead because the heart attack and then the heart surgery and then the stroke it caused.